I'm Connor Northrup, and I'm joined by UFC featherweight Sean Woodson, who takes on Kyle Nelson at UFC on ESPN 12 Saturday, June 27th. What's up, Sean?
What's going on, man? Nice to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. Now, one thing I do want to talk to you about real quick, though, is, obviously, I feel like you are a rising prospect, a rising star, too. And, you had the Contender Series, then, the win over Bochniak in your debut. But one thing I saw that's lacking is your Twitter game. I was trying to find you on Twitter. I found two accounts. And the one, I think, is like the last tweet was like in 2017. So what's up with that Twitter game?
Yeah, man, I'm not too big on social media at all, man. Like it took forever for me to even get an Instagram. Like, all my people around me were getting on me heavy about getting Instagram, and I'm just now like getting comfortable with Instagram and like just learning, how to work it and stuff. And but yeah, as far as picking up a whole nother one like Twitter and learning the ins and outs of that, I'm good on that, man. I'm gonna stick with Instagram and Facebook. I'll probably get onto the Twitter game eventually, but as for right now, I'm just Instagram.
Crawl before you can walk, I guess.
Right. Yeah, baby steps.
Awesome. But, like I said, though, on top of the show, like, you had the Contender Series, you had the debut. It seems like it's kind of like a whirlwind, too. Like, what's this last year been like for you?
Life changing, man. It's the best year of my life for sure. Yeah, best year of my life. I wish I would have been, more active. But I say that, but at the same time, I'm blessed to be in the position I'm in because, there's guys that got signed on Contender Series before me and still haven't even made their debut yet. So to be able to get that win on Contender Series, get that contract, and then for them to turn me around 3 months later to make my debut, it's been amazing, man. Dream come true.
Yeah. You haven't really had like there are no easy fights, obviously, but like it just seems like you've been tested so much too early on. Like, you go in Contender Series, you're there at what, 4 or 5 days notice, and you're taking on a guy who was on the Ultimate Fighter. And then in your debut, you're taking on Bochniak, like in his backyard of Boston too, so in enemy territory. Like, what have you learned through those, first two fights?
That's how I wanted it, man. Like I didn't want to build up my record and have it padded and fight a bunch of bums and then, get, to the big stage and not be prepared for it. At the beginning of my career, I was 2-0 and I took on a guy in locally around here who was 4-0, all first round finishes and had, a bunch of hype behind him. And yeah, just right out the gate, I wanted to fight tough fights. That's all I wanted was tough fights to not just prove to everybody else that I'm for real, but to prove to myself. You know what I'm saying? To go in there with the tough fights and just come out on top and just prove to myself that this is what I'm meant to do.
Yeah, for sure. And then just going off that too, within that time too, and I remember I think it was after the Bochniak fight you had said that you wanted to get in. I think it was around like 3 or 4 months. Obviously, with the pandemic and everything, that wasn't able to happen. How much are you kind of itching to get back in there in that second, octagon fight?
Yeah, man, I've been ready to get back in there for a long time. I had a offer for the John Jones card in like February, but it was on like 5 days notice, and that I just couldn't do that one. I just couldn't make the weight cutting time. Then my manager was telling me that I had two opponents turn me down for some reasons, and then it's pretty public that I was supposed to fight May 16th against Jared Gordon, and then he turned that down. But now here we are, and yeah, I'm ready to rock.
Yeah. You actually brought up a lot of things that I do want to talk to you about, so we'll dive right in that. Like with the weight cut too, I remember I've seen in past interviews you kind of said that you're not sure if you would do that again. Is that what that came down to, not taking that fight on 5 days notice? Like after that Contender Series experience, I think it was like what, 24 pounds in 4 days or something.
Yeah,
Was that kind of like a never again type of thing?
100% a never again type of thing, man. Yeah, it was 24 pounds in about 5 days. And yeah, still to this day, man, I don't know how like I made that happen. Yeah, man, I still don't know how I made that happen. I know that sounds crazy, but yeah, I just kind of it was an accumulation of that, me knowing that was my big moment to make things happen, and that was opportunity to change my life and all that, and just everything that was, I think, is what helped me make the weight. But as far as like repeating that and doing that again, I just don't see that being possible. Yeah, I kind of forgot your question. Could you?
No, yeah, no. Just like with everything that is going on too, and like, would you ever like almost like do that again?
Oh yeah, I mean, okay, yeah. You asked me about the February and that being short notice stuff. Yeah, But yeah, after that Contender Series, man, I swore I would never do that again. And yeah, like man, I almost died trying to make that weight that first time for Contender Series. But yeah, then in February, yeah, it's a big card, John Jones, and like I said, I know I made that weight before on 6 days notice, but just doing that again was just, I didn't want to put myself in that position. So yeah, I had to turn that down. But yeah, but now I walk around pretty low, you know, I to where I won't be in that position to where I have to cut that much weight on short notice. And, you know, now that I've got a feel for how the UFC works and how, you know, any moment they can offer you something on, you know, 2-3 weeks notice, especially during this pandemic, you know, they're not really handing out full fight camps right now. You know, pretty much everything is about 2-3 weeks notice. So, and like even this fight, you know, I was able to make 45, you know, if that's what the fight was at. You know, the only reason we're doing this catch weight is because my opponent asked for it. And
Okay.
You know, yeah, I didn't want to, you know, be picky and, you know, say, well, let's do it at 45 and then pass up and go find somebody who was okay with the 150 catch weight. So yeah, I just didn't want to pass up those opportunities. So I just took what they gave me, man. The catch weight it is.
Yeah. You already answered that. I wanted to follow up with that, just asking, you know, why it is at 150. But the fact that it is at 150 and an extra 5 pounds too, I mean, how does that benefit you?
Just makes the weight cut just that much easier. You know, everybody knows who's ever cut weight. You know, those last 5 pounds are the hardest. So yeah, not having to and it being on short notice, you know, that's nice too that I get that extra 5 pounds. But like I said, man, I could have made the featherweight limit, you know. But so yeah, he asked for this catch weight, and yeah, that kind of lets me know, like, as much as he says, you know, he's been you know, in good shape and he's been training consistently and all that, you can't be in that too good of a shape if you're asking for a catch weight.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't think it's any mystery that, like, you're pretty much like a specimen, it feels like, at 145 too. I mean, you're the tallest out of the lightweights as well. So, like, the fact of that, and I remember reading that you actually at one point were, you know, weighed over 200 pounds too. Like, at what point did you realize in your career that, like, 145, like, was that weight class for you?
Well, yeah, I used to be 230 pounds. You know, I made my pro kickboxing debut at heavyweight, and I was still training. I was training this like pretty much the same as I train now. I just didn't take the diet part right. You know, the nutrition. I would, you know, bust my ass, train really hard, and then come home and stuff my face with like Oreos and Doritos and all that stuff, and just eat whatever I wanted and stuff. But when I really got serious about it and, you know, made it a lifestyle altogether, the weight was just falling off like crazy. You know, I fought at middleweight, fought at welterweight, fought at lightweight. And when I fought at lightweight, I weighed in, I think, at like 154. And that's all I had to see. I weighed 1 pound under that 154. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to featherweight. You know, you know, just seeing how low I can go, really. And yeah, I believe I'm the tallest featherweight in the UFC's division right now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and I know at least by the time your last fight too, I think they said you were actually taller than any of the lightweights currently on the roster too. So.
Oh wow, that's cool. What about James Vick? I think he might have like an inch or two on me.
Oh, is he? Yeah.
He might have an inch or two on me. But yeah, I mean, I'm tall as hell though, man. I'm built different than all these guys at featherweight, and that presents, you know, more problems and. That presents a unique problem for all these guys at featherweight too, I believe.
Yeah, because I mean, even if James gets taller, I mean, I think you're definitely giving some of those lightweights a run for their money as far as the height goes. Yeah, 6'3" he is.
Okay, so yeah, I'm 6'2.5", 6'3" on a good day. So yeah, we about the same.
On a good day. And then just like another thing I want to talk about too is just as far as this fight goes too, and obviously it is going up to 150. But how do you feel like you stack, you know, against a guy like Kyle?
Great, man. I love this matchup. You know, he's a tough dude, toughest opponent to date, no doubt. You know, 13-3, solid record. Yeah, he comes forward. You know, that's exactly those are the type of guys I like to fight. You know, the guys that come forward and, you know, bring the fight to me. And he's not one of them guys that, you know, like to, you know, take you down and lay on top of you, even though I'm 100% sure he's coming to wrestle me. But I know I have a feeling he will strike with me somewhat, you know what I'm saying? And he's an exciting fighter, man. Tough dude, comes forward, and it's going to be an exciting fight for sure.
Yeah. The fact that, like, the way your first two fights went, too, I mean, do you kind of just, like, assume at this point that most guys are going to want to take you to the ground?
I know it, man. You can put me in there with a guy who's, you know, who thinks he's the best striker in the world or best striker in the division or, you know, a striker first, and I guarantee I'm going to turn him into a wrestler, man, every time.
Yeah. And now, you know, a lot of people are talking about kind of with the smaller cage, too, at the Apex and how it's forcing guys to kind of just get in there? I mean, is that something that you're kind of like excited about? And I mean, you have fought in that cage before.
Yeah. I've fought in that cage before. I didn't really feel that big of a difference. You know, I fought in the Apex and I fought in Boston in the big cage, and yeah, I really didn't feel a difference, man. You know, a fight is a fight, you know, and yeah, fight's a fight, man. I don't really think that it'll play out, you know, much different. I like that smaller cage and that, you know, it pushes the action and, you know, there's not much, you know, room to dilly dally in there. Like, yeah, I like that we're gonna, you know, the bell's gonna ring, we're gonna get straight to it.
Yeah. And like, how much of an advantage do you feel like that is for you too? Because we've seen a lot of guys that were on the Contender Series and are fighting on these kind of like quarantine cards, if you want to call them. But a lot of them were kind of when it was still like the tough gym, not the Apex. They're still kind of a small group that got to, you know, fight the Apex. So do you think it gives you like a little bit of an advantage?
Uh, yeah, I don't know if it gives me an advantage, but cause you know, I don't know if that'll like play into factor with like him at all. But as far as me, I just, you know, I like it that I've been in there before and that, you know, it won't be totally brand new to me. You know what I'm saying? It's just a familiar place, so that's nice.
Yeah. And then you did mention Jared Gordon earlier too, and I want to talk to you about him real quick because I saw an interview with him where he was kind of talking about that fight and just how, you know, I guess he just thought that like, the risk wasn't worth the reward. But he talked a lot about like your height and how you are such a kind of a problem just like in that regard with the thing, and like to come from a guy like that who has 6 fights and you know has fought a guy like Charles Oliveira, like does that mean a lot kind of coming from a guy like that?
Um, I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean a lot. I mean, it is a compliment that, you know, everything he was saying and all, but I just didn't really understand it. That is a fight. I'm not gonna lie. I'd like that in the future because I just didn't fully understand his reasoning behind turning it down. You know, he's had, I think his main reason was that he had 6 fights in the UFC and I've only had one, and that, you know, it wasn't really worth it to fight me. But I mean, the guy he was scheduled to fight that I was replacing, you know, Matt Sales, I mean, he was making it sound like he was scheduled to fight, you know, a top 15 guy or something. You know,
Yeah.
that guy's in the same bracket as me. You know, there wasn't much different. It's like your original opponent you were scheduled to fight is we're both like, you know, in the same bracket. I believe Matt Sales had 2 fights in the UFC, and then they got your replacement of a guy who had 1 fight, and now all of a sudden you're like, oh no, I don't. I'm just like, I didn't. Yeah, I think what it was, you know, I just would have preferred it if you would have just kept it real and been like, you know, this is a tough matchup on short notice, and that's why I'm not taking this fight. Like, whenever a guy, you know, I've been a student of the fight game a long time. Whenever a guy starts getting political, and you know, I've had 6 fights, he's only had one. At the end of the day, you see a threat. That's why you turn that fight down.
Is that a fight that you know we could a guy's name that we could see you calling out in the near future?
Uh, I don't really have any. That's a fight I definitely want in the near future. You know what I'm saying? 100%. He and yeah, I just didn't like it because it's like, you know, he's been in the same position I am. You know, he was, you know, a new guy in the UFC. You know, trying to get fights. You know what I'm saying? So, and you know, I hadn't fought in like 8-9 months, and I was just sitting on ready for an opportunity. And then they hit me up and they're like, "Yo, this guy had a fight and he needs a replacement." You know, and it was like 2 weeks or something like that. And you know, they had it. I was under the impression that, you know, all I had to do was say yes and sign a contract, and it was a go. You know, I believe his management, you know, they agreed to it and all, and so yeah, like once I said yes and then he turned it down, it just really was a bummer, man. It just kind of made me mad. So yeah, I definitely would want that fight in the future for sure.
Yeah, and we talked a lot about just you know your stand-up game too, and how you are a threat there. But you know, I know you had a lengthy amateur boxing career too. How did you kind of get into MMA? Because I think in the last fight you were on too, I remember the commentators were saying that at one point you were gonna become a pro boxer. So what made you kind of you know take that MMA route?
Yeah, boxing was the first thing I ever fell in love with. I had my first boxing match when I was 8 years old. You know, I was all about it. Boxing. I was familiar. I was familiar with MMA for a while before I actually started doing it myself. I actually used to like mock it and make fun of it and be like, oh, you know, kickings for girls. You know, I don't like that stuff, and you know, all the grabbing and grappling and stuff. But I got into a car. Long story short, I got into a car accident and I couldn't drive to my boxing gym anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom had found Hit Squad when it was owned by Matt Hughes and Robbie Lawler. And
Okay.
they had dorm rooms where you could go and live. You didn't have to travel back and forth and drive on the highway. So, yeah, I couldn't drive to my boxing gym anymore, but I still knew I wanted to fight. So that was pretty much my only option. I went to the dorm rooms and moved in there and started doing MMA. And because of my my boxing background, even though I didn't have, much MMA experience, but I've had a lot of boxing fights, they threw me right in with, all the killers. Hughes, Robbie Lawler, Neil Magny at the time. A bunch of guys, man. And I learned everything that came with MMA from just going live. I learned from getting beat up and learned from sparring sessions and all that. When I first started doing MMA, there wasn't really much classes and structure. I didn't really go through techniques and do class like that. It was just we'd show up and put on the gear and fight and do live grappling. And I learned that way.
Yeah, do you almost like prefer it that way too, though? Just like, because I feel like in that way, it's like you can learn mistakes so much quicker by just making be like, oh, like this guy got that on me, he hit that on me. It's like right away, like what you did wrong, kind of.
Yeah, 100%. I prefer to learn that way. Yeah, all the way, because I feel like the best way to get better at fighting is to actually fight. You know what I'm saying? You can hit a pad and hit a bag and stuff like that. And drilling is important. Drilling is important to sharpen up your techniques and get stuff crisp. But I feel like overall the best way is to actually do the damn thing. You know what I'm saying? When I went to his squad, little bitty 125ers were taking me down and choking me out and stuff like that. But you can only get choked out, so many times before you start, figuring out ways to not get choked out, You get whooped up on so much, you kind of adjust and learn ways not to get beat up so bad. And then next thing you know, you're beating up people. So yeah, that's my favorite way to learn.
Yeah. And even like the fact that you are so tall for your division too, like when you were like at these gyms for the first time too, like were a lot of guys like, did you get that? Like, I feel like you would get that comment a lot of just being like, wait, like you're a 145er, like that kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. Anytime I tell somebody I'm 145, they give me a crazy look like, what the hell? Yeah. It just, they can't make sense of it, man. I get that question so more than anything, like on my Instagram, Facebook, I get DMs all the time. What do you walk around at? How do you cut so much weight? And, just questions about how do I make 145? I get that on the daily.
Yeah. All right, Sean. Well, again, thanks for giving me the time. Before I let you go, anything else?
Man, June 27th, tune in. It's going to be a great fight. We're the first fight of the night. Pretty sure.
I believe so, yeah.
Sure about that, yeah. I'm looking forward to, starting the card off with a bang and getting after it, man. I'm ready to get in there. It's been too long.